I spit him until the entire story's told. Not a prediction, I hit him with a submission hold. Champion, it's not that easy to defend the title. Target on my back and every move I make is vital. The show it shows the high highs, the lower lows. I'm not surprised cause I know I see both of those. It's WrestleMania season, that's the reason I'm here. I've been working towards the main event my whole career. I ain't going nowhere, let it be loud and clear. Hit you with the curb stomp, finish you off with a spear. I'm like Jeff Hardy, I'm immune to the fear. Once I hit the ring, all my critics disappear. It's inexplicable, anything else but typical. My style is unpredictable, but that's the point. Unorthodox, waiting for my endorsement spot. Forfeit when I put you in the scorpion lock. So if you're ready to ride, then buckle up. But if you got a problem with me, knuckle up. The bright lights, road to WrestleMania. I'm here for a fight, not sports entertaining ya. So if you're ready to ride, then buckle up. But if you got a problem with me, knuckle up. The bright lights, road to WrestleMania. I'm here for a fight, not sports entertaining ya. I won't give up, cause I'm unstoppable.
That is the intro video for my man at and Won't Stop on Twitter. Check him out on Twitter at Won't Stop. He said, man, would you like to use that in your WrestleMania review video? It wasn't even a second thought. I love that WrestleMania video. He did an awesome job. Check out his stuff. But we're about to hop right on into it. What a roller coaster ride it was. It was up and it was down. And I'm about to hop into all of that. Feel free to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to be notified of every video that I make on YouTube. Feel free to follow on Periscope, my Periscopers. So, we're going to start with the top 3 matches and then work our way down from there. So, the first takeaway is a dusty finish. Like, man, I'm going to hop into the controversy later on, but we're gonna get let's talk about the match first, then we're gonna hop into the controversy. So Charlotte Flair, I mean, look, it's like 11 o'clock and like it's past the hour. Pay-per-views for me end at 10 o'clock, so it's 11 Eastern and or 11 Central Time. It's midnight there, midnight for them. So I'm like, man, let's get on with this. We had the dance break before that. I'm like, come on, man, let's go. So Charlotte Flair comes down, she's in the plane, and I'm like, bruh, she gonna zip line down from the plane? And obviously she didn't. It was just an homage to when Ric Flair did it. Ric Flair once came off of a helicopter way back when in NWA. But that's beside the point. We got them all down in there. What we got was the match at first. It was just a high-paced match, very high-paced. And it was at a point in time in the pay-per-view to where I was like, look, the ladies are in a must-deliver spot. I thought the pay-per-view hinged on the ladies at that point with the way the pay-per-view went. So it was a high-paced match. I enjoyed it. I liked the double armbar that Ronda locked in. I thought that was done really well. And we had a disarm locked in early from Becky. And it was a decent match, but the match really slowed down, and the crowd, you could tell that they were really tired. Like, I wouldn't say it was a dead crowd. They were into it, but eventually they settled down, and you could tell that they were tired. It was like a 7.5 hour show, and you could tell the crowd was really tiring down. Charlotte hit a tremendous Spanish fly. That is the best move in Charlotte's book, not that moonsault. That Spanish fly she does, it is beautiful. She hit it and it was great. Becky got a table out and we had the double hip lock into the table with Charlotte. The table didn't break. The tables were just out in force, like not putting anybody over the entire night. So we got to the controversy. We had the roll up and we hit a 1, 2, 3, and like I kind of had my head down, half paying attention, and I'm like, okay, Ronda's gonna kick out there. Becky got the 3 count. What? I tweeted, what? And it was like, what is going on here? Like, that was horrible. And we had multiple reports come out, right? Okay, first, Sean Ross Sapp, excuse me. Sorry for butchering your name, brother. But he came out, he said that it was a botch. The finish didn't go as planned. And, you know, Ronda's really upset. Then recently, today, we had Dave Meltzer come out and he kind of conflicted that report. He said that at one point, the finish was going to be a submission finish. And there were a lot of people against it. But in the end, the idea was a pinfall. and not a submission. This transcript is coming from 411 Mania, by the way. I want to give them credit. But he went on to say that Ronda was not supposed to get the shoulders up. He said that was it just happened. He said she was supposed to be pinned, really pinned. Now, there's a lot of things you can take from all of this. At the least, you can just say that it's conflicting reports. Did Dave Meltzer mean that that was the finish all along? Or did he mean that Ronda was supposed to get pinned in a more concrete way and not a fluke roll-up? You can take a lot from that, but at the end of the day, it's conflicting reports. I don't know what WWE was thinking. So I'm just going to speak to this. I don't know what happened at the end of the day, but boy, what I do know is that it was Ronda's fault. I went back and looked at it. So, initially when stuff like that happens, you think, oh man, the referee botched it. Goodness, he botched it. And that's all. I think that was everybody's thought when it initially went down. But I went and watched the replay for myself, and not the replay that they showed right after the match. I went and watched the actual replay, and the referee is on the side of Becky and Ronda, and he hits the one. Ronda's shoulders comes up, and the referee, with his view where he was, he couldn't see that. Like, he didn't see Ronda's shoulders come up. But here's the thing, Ronda's shoulders went up and then immediately went back down. So the referee's in the middle of his count. I don't know if Becky pinned Ronda's shoulders back down so she could kick out, or Ronda just put her shoulders back down. But the referee's in the middle of his count. 1, 2, 3. Ronda's shoulders are still down up to 2. Ronda's shoulders are still down up to 3, and then she flips out. So I cannot put this on the referee. He did not see Ronda's shoulders go up, but at the same time, Ronda's shoulders did not stay up. Ronda's shoulders went back down. So Ronda has to make a definitive move where she gets out of that pinfall if that's not the planned finish. If it is the planned finish, Ronda can't just lift her shoulders up. One way or another, it is on Ronda Rousey. And I don't know what happened, but immediately in the moment, it reminded me of Starrcade 97. Sting versus Hogan. They built Sting up, for all my old school wrestling fans, they built Sting up for an entire year. And it got all the way down to Sting versus Hogan. WWE has built has built Becky Lynch up unintentionally and then intentionally since August of last year at SummerSlam. And it got all the way down to what it should have been at the beginning. Becky versus Ronda. Got down to that. And here it is. You got the finish in the middle of in the palm of your hands. It said here that there were some people backstage that were against the submission. Dave Meltzer said that they didn't want Ronda to tap out. That was your plan. Becky submits Ronda with the disarmor. Ronda goes away. That's all you had to do. It didn't have to be a pinfall. It didn't have to be any type of controversy. That's what you do. WCW built Sting up and they had this crooked finish that Hulk Hogan was behind. I will always say that. And Sting won, but let me tell you, Sting won, but it was not the finish. It did not put Sting over like it should have. The only thing I remember about Sting's title reign is that they had a match the next night. That was botched. Then they had a match at Super Brawl, I think in February. Sting won, and that's the only thing I ever remember about that title reign. And the rest of that is not significant because to this day, in 2019, the only thing we talk about in Sting versus Hogan and Sting's title reign is that finish and how WCW screwed it up. And I look at this finish, and there are a lot of people that were saying that, look, bruh, I know the finish was screwed up, but Becky won at the end of the day. And I understand that Becky won, but we're going to be looking at this finish for a long time. When we look back on this match, we're going to look at the finish and the fact that the match was good, but it never really picked up to the point where it was picking up and we were like, oh, okay, this is getting really good. I'm very much into this. Didn't pick up like that. Had Becky win in a bad way. Becky's just in the middle of the ring with both belts just after that sudden pinfall that looked like a screw jab, and the telecast just cuts off, and it's like, oh man, Becky didn't get put over right, man. And like, I think back to another thing, Austin, Shawn Michaels, the Austin era has begun. Austin's on the middle rope with the belt, and like, they didn't put Becky over like that. They got cute, and Ronda was at fault. I don't know if WWE is at fault, but it seems like they wanted a pinfall finish. This seemed like the planned finish. I don't know for sure. I'm not backstage, so I can't tell you. One way or another, they got cute with themselves, and they really screwed up that finish. And it's something that I'll never forget, because I wanted to see Becky tap Ronda out and get on the ropes with the belts with a definitive finish, and I did not get it. It was a good match, but it was not a great match. It was not a match that we expected, the match that we expected. And I'm worried, to be honest with you, that the ladies will never main event another WrestleMania again. This is not coming from me. It's just that, not Triple H, Vince McMahon. Look, this is what I'm gonna say, Vince McMahon. I'm worried that he's gonna look at this and say, you know what, I'm not gonna let the ladies main event again. I'm worried about that. Truly, I am worried about that. So we move on, and I gotta say that the next takeaway is a historic moment if we're moving on to Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston. And man, what a match. Like I've been saying for months now, that should have been the main event. This should be the main event. And once we come out of this WrestleMania, we'll look back on it and say, that should have been the main event, and that should have been the main event. I was so nervous in this match. Goodness, I haven't been that nervous for a wrestling match in a very, very long time. So the crowd is into it. And man, we had what was a phenomenal match. I loved it. We had a sick Kofi spot. He jumps down. Daniel Bryan is on the announce table. Kofi jumps down. He hits the announce table rib first. He hits the top of the announce table face first. It's like, oh my goodness, Kofi might have a broken rib and a broken nose. He hit it that hard. So this was a great match. We had a spot in the match to where Daniel Bryan is kicking Kofi Kingston, and Kofi Kingston is like, bring it on. I got hyped for that moment. The crowd got hyped for that moment. And we had some nice boo yeah spots with the crowd. When Daniel Bryan locked on that LaBelle lock, like it just crept into my mind. I was like, oh my God, this is it. He's not gonna win. And I was thinking it, man. And we finally get down to it. Kofi Kingston hits his finisher, and he pins Daniel Bryan 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. And like elation just went from me. This was a historic moment, man. For the longest, I had given up on a black champ, like for as far as a black champion winning since The Rock on Raw, I've completely given up on that. But I had given up also on a SmackDown champion, being a black champion on SmackDown. And we get to this moment, and I'm like, I don't know when this is gonna come around again, but please just give it to Kofi. They gave it to Kofi. I don't know how long it's gonna last. And I was nervous that the New Day was gonna turn over on him. Big E brought out a present. I'm like, oh my God, what is gonna happen here? They're standing at ringside. What's gonna happen here? And they didn't do anything. They just put Kofi Kingston over. And I gotta give him a round of applause for that. Great job, WWE. You did a phenomenal job. It was well done. I loved it. Kofi Kingston is the champion. I cannot tell you how excited I am. I hope the guy gets a multi-month title run, just something like that, before they take it off of him. But I'm not gonna worry about that for the moment. I'm just gonna worry about that Kofi did it for the moment. My next takeaway is shock. So we go to the Universal title match, and it kicks off the show. Hulk Hogan kicked off the show, but Heyman came rushing down. He said, since we're not the main event, we want to do this now. And it's like Brock Lesnar comes out, and I'm like, okay, they're really doing this. Seth Rollins comes out, and I'm like, they're really doing this. What we got in retrospect, when I seen it, the shock of the match being first really took my eyes off of the quality of the match. But looking at it now, I gotta look at it and say that the quality of the match was really bad, man. We had Brock come in and do the same old stuff. He beat up Seth Rollins, he threw him around with German suplexes. Seth Rollins hits 3 curb stomps, and he picks up the victory. Like, they could have had a better match than that, man. Brock had great matches with Daniel Bryan, great matches with AJ Styles. He couldn't do that with Seth Rollins. Look, at the end of the day, it takes me back to when Dean Ambrose said that Brock Lesnar didn't want to do business. And Brock Lesnar had a fight coming up in UFC when he faced off against Dean Ambrose. He didn't want to do that match like Dean Ambrose wanted to do it. And I think the same thing happened here. Brock Lesnar did not want to do business with Seth Rollins. Didn't want to put him over. He has that match coming up with Daniel Cormier at UFC. He didn't want to put on a great match, and that's what we got. I'm glad Seth Rollins is a universal champion. I'm glad about that. But at the end of the day, we could have had a better match, and like at the end of the day, I'm upset about that because we could have had a better match, and you could have really put Seth Rollins over the right way. So my next finish, as we look at the rest of the card here, is an uninteresting match. That's the next takeaway. Bobby Lashley versus Finn Balor, Intercontinental Championship on the line. And I gotta say that, okay, we had the demon gimmick come back out, and I wasn't really expecting a whole lot from this match. I thought it would be a squash with them. You know how they treat the demon gimmick, like, okay, Finn Balor is another person now. That just ticks me off. But we had a fast pace. Lashley hit a 6 spear through the ropes. He hit a Big E spear through the ropes, and it wasn't a squash, but I think Finn Balor lifted up Lashley for a powerbomb, and they was like, the regular Finn Balor couldn't have done that. And I'm like, oh my God, really? Finn Balor picks up the win with the coup de grace. He is a 2-time Intercontinental Champion. I don't know why they took the belt off the guy in the first place, but hey, that's neither here nor there. Finn Balor picks up the win in what was an uninteresting match. This was a part of WrestleMania where it was starting to go downhill and continue. Well, not starting to go downhill, it was continuing to go downhill. But Finn Balor picks up the win. At least they got the win right. So moving on to the next takeaway, Corbin wins. So we got this match, Kurt Angle versus Baron Corbin. It was the saddest thing ever. It was like 5 minutes. Corbin got a little bit of heat early in the match. Kurt Angle picked up some German suplexes, and this was not much of a match at all. Towards the end of the match, Kurt Angle pulled off the moonsault. I was proud to see Kurt Angle still pull off that moonsault and still get around for that. But Baron Corbin would hit the end of days for the win, and it was just like a deflating feeling. I guess they wanted to see the crowd get upset. You know, let's zoom in on the crowd's faces, and the crowd was just like, whatever, bro. You treating Kurt Angle like that, and this was a big rib on Kurt Angle at the end of the day. I hate that they treated the guy like that, because the guy is legit one of the better wrestlers that I've ever seen. Pure wrestling. The guy is one of the better wrestlers that I've ever seen. And he's had a phenomenal career in WWE, and he deserves better. He deserved the Ric Flair treatment. He deserved a great storyline leading into this WrestleMania. He did not get it, and he did not get the win. And it was against Baron Corbin. What does that do for Baron Corbin? Nothing at all. You could have put somebody else in that match, man. That just sickens me. But that's beside the point. We're going to move on here for time. Next up, a drawn out match. So we have Batista versus Triple H, and boy, oh boy, Batista tripped getting into the ring. That was hilarious to me. And like, we were off to a bad start already. Batista was winded early in this match. You can see him huffing and puffing. And I'm like, man, the match, we're just like 2 or 3 minutes into the match. Batista is huffing and puffing already. The guy was winded. Like, you can tell that he doesn't work on his cardio, man. So Triple H got the chain out, and maybe the spot of the match, Triple H picks the nose ring out of Batista's nose. And I was like, oh my goodness, really? And it was a very slow match. I enjoyed the spear from Triple H, but this match went on way too long. It was a classic Triple H match. Like I said in my preview, Triple H always has to have his 30-minute matches that goes on way too long, and he wants to seem like a classic when in fact, you make it go on that long, it is very uninteresting. That is just my opinion, and this match was uninteresting because it went on too long. Triple H picked up the win. He got the pedigree. And excuse me, when he hit the pedigree, Batista kicked out of it. It wasn't until Flair got involved where Triple H went on to eventually pick up the win. This match was uninteresting. We had some pretty decent near falls. Triple H did indeed win with another pedigree, but it was uninteresting, man. It went on way too long, man. Way too long. So, moving on to my next takeaway. The Doctor of Thugonomics is back. So Elias had his segment, and I'm just looking at it. I'm like, okay, who's gonna interrupt? Hope it's The Rock. But we had 3 Eliases, and Elias went on and on and on. And then John Cena comes out. Not as the recent John Cena, but as the Doctor of Thugonomics. How about that, man? And you know what? I like to see Cena as that, but me at the end of the day, like, I wasn't interested in it. John Cena, some nice rhymes and all, that was pretty good, but no, I wasn't interested in it whatsoever. John Cena comes back, that's the Doctor of Thugonomics. People really loved it on Twitter. They were saying, you know what, it was nice to see John Cena back as the Doctor of Thugonomics, but I didn't enjoy it. He spit some nice rhymes, but at the end of the day, I didn't enjoy it overall. So we're moving on here from that. We're moving on to an underwhelming match. Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. Like, this is one of the matches I was really looking forward to, and it just underwhelmed. I don't really have a lot to say about this match because there wasn't a whole lot that went on in the match. Like, at the end of the day, man, it was a slow pace. And it never kicked out of first gear. It was never a match that I enjoyed whatsoever. Like, Roman Reigns went on to pick up the victory, but okay, like I had a feeling that Roman would win, but the match was so uninteresting and I never got a chance to get into it whatsoever. I did not like it. I had faint hope for a Drew win, but at the end of the day, like, no, I didn't like it.
Next takeaway is a squash match. Rey Mysterio versus Samoa Joe.
Before it could even get going, Samoa Joe likes on the choke, and it is over. Samoa Joe picks up a victory in a squash match. Rey Mysterio must have been still hurt. One would say, well, why wouldn't they replace him? But I look at the situation, and there's a lot of merit to that. But I will say that they put it in a nice position because it was after Kofi and Daniel Bryan. So I understood it, but squash match. Samoa Joe did look dominant in victory, so I'll give him that. So moving on, I'm gonna say the next takeaway is the Iconics finally get a freaking moment, man. It's about time, bruh. This was an interesting match to say the least. The Iconics controlled early. They did a pretty good job, I gotta say. They controlled early, and I love the elbow drop and frog splash from Bayley and Sasha Banks. That got a near fall. The double sharpshooter I love from Natalya. I love that as well. But the match would end as Beth Phoenix would hit a super glam slam, but the Iconics would roll in and steal the victory. So great for the Iconics, man. Like I said, I was rooting in my heart for the Iconics. I really wanted to see them win, man. They deserved something special. Like, they haven't had a significant win or a significant moment since Carmella, since they beat down Charlotte and Carmella cashed in upon their debut. So they needed this more than anybody in that match. The Iconics pull off the victory. I loved every bit of it. So moving on, my next takeaway is a Shane match that delivered. So here it was, Shane versus The Miz. I didn't really have a whole lot of interest in this match, but I gave it a chance because of the stipulation. So Shane versus Miz, and it was interesting because The Miz's dad got involved. I thought it was pretty funny. So at this moment, I said that, okay, they need to wake up the crowd, because we had Rollins winning in the opener. The crowd was so-so for AJ and Orton, and I think that SmackDown tag match was before that, but they needed something to wake up the crowd, and The Miz rushed in and beat up Shane after that, so that woke up the crowd. We had a nice brawl in the crowd. That spot with the international table and the international announce team, they were just going crazy, man. And like, The Miz threw Shane into that international announce team. This was just chaos everywhere. But towards the end of the match, we got a heck of a spot. Of course, Shane McMahon is in there. We got to have a big spot. We got that spot, a suplex off of the table, and it's like, whoa, man. You can see my reaction. I got it on YouTube. It's like, whoa, that was strange. That was surprising. It was huge, but got a strange finish. Shane McMahon's arm is on The Miz. He picks up the 1, 2, 3, and I'm like, man, they couldn't do that with Shane having a suplex. I didn't want to see the match end that way. I wanted a definitive result. I wanted Shane McMahon. If you're gonna go that way, let Shane McMahon pick up the victory in a definitive way. But overall, why is Shane McMahon winning in the first place? Get The Miz pick up this victory? Man, I was upset with that. But overall, the match was pretty decent. I gotta give him credit. So moving on, I'm gonna move on to the next giveaway. A sleeper, the sleeper of the night. We had the SmackDown tag titles on the line. Ricochet, Aleister Black, Rusev, Nakamura, the Usos, and The Bar. It was a phenomenal match. We had a fast start. Ricochet and Cesaro had a spot which ended in a head scissors. I don't even know what to call it. It was just a phenomenal spot that ended in a head scissors. The spot of the match was Sheamus going around with the clubs and Cesaro spinning poor Ricochet in the Cesaro swing for what was the longest Cesaro swing history of Cesaro swings. We had a nice Tower of Doom spot which had Ricochet nearly land on his feet. This was a really good match. The finisher fest that occurred toward the end of the match was really good as well. The Usos would pick up the victory. I thoroughly enjoyed this match, and I thought that they did a tremendous job. Well done to SmackDown Tag Team Division. So moving on, I'm going to move on to the last takeaway, and that was a tough spot. So Randy Orton versus AJ Styles, boy, they were in a tough spot following Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar. The crowd was just in a frenzy with Seth Rollins winning, and this got off to a really slow pace. Crowd wasn't really into it. They had a nice callback when AJ Styles went for the phenomenal forearm, but he ducked down off of the turnbuckle because he saw Randy Orton going for the RKO. So that was a nice callback to Tuesday night. We had a very restless crowd. The phenomenal forearm to the outside I loved as well. The match eventually picked up. The crowd was worried about the lights. I was wondering what was going on with the crowd, but the lights were shining on them. They couldn't. So they were worried about that. Randy Orton issued an apology on behalf of WWE for that as well. But the match moved on, and AJ Styles would go on to pick up the victory with the phenomenal forearm. If I'm not mistaken, if my memory serves me correct, I think he picked up the victory with the phenomenal forearm. It was a slow match that turned into a decent enough match. I'll give them that. So they were in a tough spot, man, because the crowd, it's tough being that second match. Chris Jericho just talked about that. When he was talking about his Kevin Owens match, he's like, I do not want to be second. And he was second that year, and the match turned out to be not as great as we thought it would be just because of the spot it was in. And AJ and Orton was in a tough spot here, so they were in a tough spot. So those are my takeaways from WrestleMania 35. Let me know your thoughts, whether that's in the YouTube comments or on Twitter at 2SweetPod. That's the number 2SweetPod, or at OMG Corey B. Let me know your thoughts. It was the ultimate roller coaster. The first 2.5 hours or so, it was up. One of the better WrestleManias in recent history. After that, way down. And it ended with that, with the women. that bad finish that really put a sour taste on things as it pertains to this WrestleMania. So I don't give this really a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I give it a thumbs in the middle. Let me know your thoughts.